Hello, YouTube, Tangel here, and today I got a fucking doozy for you. So I was playing the 1.1 update for Wuthering Waves, and a sudden realization, a fucking mind blast, if you will, hit me as I was looking at Jinhsi and the Rover's outfits. They represent yin and yang. Alright, I hope you're buckled up and ready for fucking takeoff because this shit is about to get fucking mind blowing. Alright, so here I have Jinhsi and both versions of Rover pulled up because, as I said, they represent yin and yang. And I'm going to go over the most basic of basic things that most people should know about yin and yang. And that would literally just be the colors of each side. Okay, so on the left here, we've got Jinhsi with white, and we got the Rover with black. Okay, this is yin is black, yang is white. As you can clearly see from their outfits, she is in all white, Rover is in pretty much all black. Now they do have secondary colors, and I'm gonna get into that literally right now. So the secondary colors are easily also explained, in fact even fit into the idea of yin and yang, because as you can see here, the yin and yang symbol is, as I said, black and white. However, in each side of the symbol, there is a bit of the other side, which is, of course, cleanly encapsulated by none other than their goddamn outfits. Because as you can see, Jinhsi has a little bit of black on the innermost parts of her outfit, and Rover has a bit of, you could call it gray, but when you actually look in game, it's closer to white. 100% closer to white. However, it is a very light, almost white color. In the game, it certainly looks white. But we'll go ahead, and we're going to move on now from just the colors to their actual character. Okay, so post-editing Angel here. So at this juncture, it was at this juncture while editing that I realized that I actually forgot to mention one of the most important parts of what made me realize this whole thing. If you take a look at their outfits here in the next bit, you'll notice that their outfits are very similar. Well, for the female Rover and Jinhsi. Obviously, Jinhsi doesn't have the same outfit as the male Rover. Point is, their outfits are strikingly similar. Obviously, Jinhsi has a little bit more going on, which I will actually not go over because I forgot that too. But essentially, when I go over later about how Rover has the passive traits of the yin and Jinhsi has the active traits of the yang, this actually does play a little more into their outfits, as Rover, at least female, well, both Rover's outfits are very plain. Despite whether you like the outfit or not, there really isn't a whole lot going on. In fact, female Rover's outfit is so bare bones that she exposes a lot, which is nice. But the point is that there's not really a whole lot going on. Whereas Jinhsi's outfit with the color swap also has a bit more going on. She's got some stuff going on in the shoulders, tassels, and other things. Basically just add-ons to what would normally be the bare bones same exact outfit as female Rover. Anyway, back to the video and how their characters fit into the idea of yin and yang. So I've got a list here. Now I did visit multiple sites on yin and yang, not just one or two. I visited multiple, did some cross-referencing, and added the most common ones that I found. Let's go ahead and go over yin and Rover first. So, first one, feminine force, feminine energy, whatever. Let's be honest, this could mean a million different things, because back when this symbol was created, these things mean all kinds of things. I'm not going to get into it. current society means completely different things. It just doesn't make any sense to be locking it behind this, especially when you could realistically have female Rover. But I'm gonna be treating this more as like how a doctor would diagnose a patient, whereas you don't have to fit every checkbox, just a majority of them. I believe the actual number is 5, but not a doctor. Anyway, next we're gonna go over black. We already went over that, so we'll go ahead and go past that into dark. So, dark. What does dark mean? Well, it means a lot of things. It could mean a lot of people associate the dark with evil and with black, the color black itself. However, think about it like this. Dark can be used within the term of in the dark. What does it mean to be in the dark? When you're in the dark, you don't know what's going on. Does that remind you of anything? If you thought Rover, you're fucking correct. Because Rover has literally no clue what's going on for a vast majority of the story because Rover has no memories. They don't know this land. They only know the people that they're meeting and are trying to basically keep up with what's going on. But in the overall idea of what's going on, they're in the dark. They don't have all of the information that the other characters that we interact with do. Next, we're going to go into north. Now, north and south, I could only find a couple of descriptions across multiple websites that were actually like cross-referenced into each other. And like, let's say, for example, I found multiple websites that said yin means feminine, then that's why I put feminine there. Whereas if I only found one that says that yin means destruction and no other website says destruction, I'm not going to put that on here because that's probably just their own interpretation of it and has nothing to do with the actual meaning behind yin. So, that being said, I looked up north and south. And what did I get? Well, what I found, and literally the only thing that I found that was actually across multiple websites was the idea that north means and can be translated into wisdom and thought, while south can be translated into beginnings and purity. So this is what I'll be going with, because it's the one that cross-references the most into other ideas. Now, how does this wisdom and thought pertain to Rover? After all, I just said that Rover didn't have any memories. So how could they be wise and thoughtful? Well, you don't need memories to be wise and thoughtful. You don't need memories, for the most part, to be wise and thoughtful. At least you don't need your old memories. See, Rover has been making new memories and has been pondering over the lost memories and the new memories that they've made with all these new people and friends. On top of that, we have the wisdom. Now, strictly speaking, I believe that current Rover is pretty wise. However, there is a line that specifically tells us that past Rover was potentially the wisest person on the planet. And I'm actually going to bring that up right now.
You are my arbiter and my former master. In bygone days, I stood by your side as you established Jinzhou City. You tasked me with safeguarding its prosperity. This one begs your pardon.
So, as you probably just saw, and I made it quite clear in that small little clip, Zhue literally says that everything that they know was taught to them by Rover. Rover was their previous master, and so their knowledge is limited to what they were told. This almost completely completely confirms that Rover was one of the wisest motherfuckers on the planet at the time. How does that do that? Well, Zhue is considered one of the wisest beings on the planet, and Zhue is one of the Sentinels. Now, this next part is uncertain. However, Zhue being one of the Sentinels and being taught by Rover, it is relatively safe to assume that the other Sentinels, the other 4 Sentinels of the other 4 cities, were also taught by Rover and were also subservient by Rover in the past, or subservient to Rover in the past. Meaning that all of the combined knowledge in the 5 major cities in this world is based, well, not knowledge, sorry, the combined wisdom of the 5 pseudo leaders of the 5 major cities in the world currently was given to them by Rover. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty concrete reason to think that Rover is pretty goddamn wise. And we've already gone over why Rover would be thoughtful. So, we'll go ahead and we'll go over to the next point here. Water. Water doesn't really mean much on its own, but once you get into transformation, now we're fucking cooking. So, transformation. What does it mean? Well, it basically means change. How does this pertain to Rover? Well, first off, Rover themselves changes between the 2 times that they have come to the world. The first time, they were this knowledgeable, all-powerful being sent down by the gods to lead humanity into a new age. The second time, which is now, they're blank. But they had a new little friend with them. Abby. This is a change, but also a transformation, a massive one. See, losing all of your memories can turn you into a completely different person. Your memories are what shape you, what define who you are. Without them, you're not you. You're somebody else. This is the largest kind of transformation that any person can do, is becoming someone else. Whether it's you go through something rigorous in your life and you become a brand new person because of it, or you lose all of your memories and you have a chance to reset, this is a transformation that not many people get to go through. And if they do, they don't get to go through it often. It's very rare and usually a very big turning point in somebody's life. However, it doesn't even stop there for Rover because of Abby. As Zhue says, Abby wasn't there the first time that Rover came down.
It does feel similar to me, but there is some difference. This entity is unfamiliar to me, as it resides within your tacit mark. One can only assume you granted it access intentionally.
This means that something inexplicable has changed, and we'll actually connect this with one of the later points here, absorption. But we'll get to that in a second. First, we're going to go over the next one, passive. So, passive. Where do I start with passive? So, Rover, throughout the entirety of the story, has pretty much been getting led around by the nose. And if you disagree, I want to know what story you've been playing. Because Rover has not made their own decision to go somewhere ever. Like, when has Rover made a decision on their own? Please explain. Even in 1.1, Rover did not make the decision to go get Jinhsi. It was suggested to them to go find Jinhsi in the library, and then it was by, I believe it was Abby, but it might have been Chixia. God, I hate Chixia, so that would, honestly, it would explain why I don't remember exactly who it was if it was Chixia, because I probably just purged it from my memory. But regardless of my hate for Chixia, After that, Sanhua suggests that we go and find Jinhsi on the mountain and that we will need a guide. Then we're literally guided through everything by Changli. And this cycle just continues over and over again. It's very rare that Rover takes any action of their own. Now, of course, you could say, oh, well, it's because it's the main character. No. No. There are plenty of main characters in games that do shit of their own prerogative. Okay? Just because it's a game, just because the player needs some direction, doesn't mean that the character themselves has to be directed by other people. The character themselves could be that direction. So the fact that this isn't the case very much leans into the idea of passivity. Now, this isn't the only thing. Obviously, Rover has been on the receiving end of a lot of information and gifts and hasn't really given much. Now, you might be like, what do you mean they haven't really given much? They took down a Threnodian. Well, that's kind of a null point because they only fought the Threnodian because they thought they would give, they really only fought the Threnodian because they thought they would give them an idea of their past. And lo and behold, it did. They absorbed the power from the Threnodian, awakened Abby, and now they're one step closer to figuring out who the hell they are. Now, that isn't to say that they would have just let the Threnodian destroy the entire city if they didn't gain anything from it like that. However, their main drive was, and undeniably, and this is undeniable, was to learn more about their past. That was the entire drive for them in 1.0. It is still the drive for them in 1.1. They are constantly receiving and not ever giving. They are constantly being led around and not ever taking independent action. Which, funnily enough, I actually forgot to put dependent on this list. But dependent is also a factor of yin, which, again, Rover just shows how dependent they are on everybody around them for ideas, for guidance, for even power in Abby's case. Now, I'm not saying that Abby is all of Rover's power, but Abby did save them from the Threnodian's attack at the end of 1.0. Moving on, we go to weakness. And again, I'm ignoring Goddess Jinhsi because there just isn't enough information on that figure to be able to say anything about them. But Moon and weakness. Now, personally, I believe that out of those two, Moon fits a lot easier into Rover. Why is that? Well, if you think back to 1.0, the Moon is what heralded the coming of the Threnodian, who was, well, let's not say they were born of Rover's power, but they supposedly stole Rover's power. Now, I don't believe that. I believe they were, in fact, born from a piece of Rover's power. But that is a completely separate theory of mine that I'll go over potentially in a new video once we have a little bit more information on that specific subject of Threnodians. But for now, the Moon was the catalyst, or not really the catalyst, but the sign that this was happening. A big sign. It also is linked in with the coming of Rover, as they said that this was all basically linked together, and it even happened the last time, supposedly. As for weakness, I would really say that Rover is pretty weak. In most cutscenes, Rover's kind of getting their shit handed to him and needs other people's help. And while they might not be like weak from a base like human perspective, I think that they are in fact pretty weak compared to other characters. Now they do have the new Havoc power, okay, and that is probably made them a lot stronger. However, they are not whole, and not being whole can be taken as a sign of weakness as well. Next, we're gonna go into Earth. This one's a bit, I can definitely explain this one, but it's a bit more of a reach, I'd say, than most of these other ones. So we're gonna go ahead and go over it obviously anyway, but yeah, it's a bit more of a reach. So with Earth usually, specifically, especially in old Chinese cultures and myths, meant literally the ground beneath. That was literally Earth. Heaven was the sky. So that being said, Rover is bound to the Earth in more ways than just one. First off, obviously, Rover has to run around, can't fly or anything like that. Rover has been cast out from the heavens by the mysterious goddess to Earth, not once but twice. And beyond even that, Earth is also often used as a sort of divisor, right? What do I mean by this? So in Chinese literature is sometimes used to sort of describe a grade of something, right? So for an example, you could have a sword, right? Two swords. One could be of an earth grade, the other could be of a heaven grade type shit, right? A peasant might be of the earth while a noble lives up in heaven type shit. It is basically just a lower form. Now, is Rover lower than everybody else? Technically, no, because Jinhsi has made it clear that they are an extremely honored guest and has the same power as her. But we also know that for the most part, Rover is out here slumming it with the regular ass people. She's not. They're not going and staying up in the palace where Jinhsi lives. They just go around normally, right? As opposed to Jinhsi, who is always up in the heavens because she rules over Jinzhou and is in the highest point of Jinzhou. There's just a lot of parallels, right? That is a bit of a stretch, but that is actually how they often use that as a descriptor of a person. So that's what I'm going with. Cold. Cold is a bit of an opinionated one on my part. The reason I say that is because when I watch Rover in the cutscenes, and I am not talking about just the voice. I know that the voice actor had some issues. It's fine. It's not what I'm talking about. Okay? The facial expressions of Rover are often just flat, uncaring, apathetic almost. And that's understandable. Rover doesn't know these people. It's been, what, a month max since Rover has landed? They're not in a deep relationship with any of these characters. No deep friendships, no romantic relationships. They're not family, none of that shit. So it's understandable that Rover would be a little cold towards some of these characters. And in fact, there are dialogue options which kind of go with that idea. But even if you don't select those dialogue options, a lot of the times Rover's facial expressions are simply neutral, cold even. That's really the only thing that I have for cold. And again, that can be interpreted differently by different people. Very much so. A lot of what I've been saying is I'm just correlating it to actual facts of the game. Like, you can't deny that she's lost her memory and is in the dark about a lot of things. You can't deny that she wears mostly black. Yada yada. You get it. But with this one, definitely highly opinionated, right? Maybe it's just confusion or something. I don't see how you would interpret it as anything other than just not caring enough because of a lack of connection to these people. I expect this to change in the future as Rover spends more time in this world. But for now, she seems very cold and almost and a little aloof. Next, we have Old. Now, this one you might be like, what? Rover ain't that old. Look at him. Look at him. Both of them look like kids. Really? You sure about that one? Did you bet money on that one? Let me tell you something. In case you forgot, Rover's over 500 years old. I don't know about you, but that's fucking ancient, alright? That definitely classifies as old. We're moving on. Even numbers. Even numbers can represent a form and structure, tangible things, or anything that can be seen or touched. I can't believe I didn't find this before. Now, this is actually correlated between multiple different websites. I don't know how I didn't find this before I started the recording and editing this video. But, I mean, hey, here it is now. You know, here I am now. Yeah, so that makes sense. That makes complete sense. Because who created Jinzhou? And most likely the other cities. Rover. Rover gave form to the city. Rover gave form to the base, beginning laws. It's Rover, bro. So even numbers actually make sense. As crazy as that is. I thought that was going to be one of the ones that I had to just throw away. But no, it actually makes sense. Like, I'm actually surprised. Next is valleys. This only has 2 correlations with Rover, and it's the fact that Rover was found in the same exact valley each time that they came to Earth. Or, sorry, Sol 3. We all know it's Earth. Whatever. But they were found in the same valley each time that they were found on Earth. Rover clearly has a connection with valleys. We're moving on. Poor. There are a lot of meanings to poor. So I'm gonna go with some of the more, not really ambiguous, but metaphysical maybe. So a lot of the times when you think poor, you think of money. Now, Rover does fit that for the most part. I mean, they're a new person here. They don't really have much of their own money. Now, if you're talking like in the game, actually, yeah, no, my Rover's broke. I don't know about your Rover, but my Rover's fucking broke. But besides that, Rover is poor in pretty much every single way that you could look at it. They don't have that many connections with other people because they just got here, and the connections they do have haven't really had a whole lot of time to solidify. On top of that, they don't have any memories of the past. They're a fucking blank void up there. So that is another way in which they are poor. They are poor in terms of memories and even, you could say, emotional IQ, because that is where you get your emotional intelligence from, is your memories. You can fight me on that one, by the way. That's an opinion for the most part. I don't know if that's actually a fact, but yeah, Rover is poor in multiple different ways, and almost every way that you could think of, Rover is poor. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to soft. There was only one example that I can think of, and you know, maybe there are more, and I'm just not remembering them, you know. But for me, there's only one example, and it's the interaction with Scar, the first one. Rover was more than willing to listen to Scar. Right? Now, that being said, there is the option to just fight Scar, right? But it is alluded to the fact that that is not that is not what is supposed to happen, right? It's an option that you can take because at the end of the day, you're going to fight Scar anyway, but it is not really like canon, right? You are meant to investigate and find out what happened at the village, and then you go and you talk to Scar about it, and you talk to other people about it, yada yada. Mainly in-game. this fact that this guy came in out of nowhere, you don't know him, he trapped your, I'm gonna say companion. I don't think at this point you could even consider them friends. Maybe you could. Hey, maybe you could. Whatever. I wouldn't. And has shown some level of hostility to you as the fact that he is and has self-admitted to being a member of the Fraxidus, which, as far as Rover knows at that time, is a band of bad guys that kills people and does all kinds of heinous shit. And yet, Rover is still willing to listen to what he says and follow along with his little game. That's some soft shit right there. What do I mean? Well, in my mind, and again, this one is heavily opinionated because maybe soft and hard would mean different things to you in terms of personality, but to me, a softer person is someone who isn't prone immediately to violence, someone who is more than willing to listen to what other people have to say, even if they're on the opposite side of them. It's like being flexible. It'd be another word for it, right? If you're soft, you know, you're not gonna break, you're just gonna bend or whatever. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to provides spirit to all things. Now this one's a little more difficult. This one is certainly a little more difficult. However, I do have a stretch of reason for this one. So hear me out. Rover and their power potentially created the Threnodians. And that would mean that you were able to give spirit, give effectively life to that. Now that's a stretch and a fucking half, and I understand that. But if I fucking end up being right later on as we figure out how the Threnodians came to be, here it is right now, man. I said that shit first. All I'm gonna say. Next, absorption. Hello again, post-editing Painful here. Once again, I was watching this while editing, and I realized that my ADD ass just started fucking with my chair to make it creak on purpose. I apologize. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I, looking at the video, realized that is exactly what happened. I apologize if you are suffering from that. It's not something I could really fucking help. I didn't, like I said, I didn't even realize I was doing it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Back to the video. I think we all know the proof of this one. You literally absorb the power that the Threnodian stole from you back into yourself. Now, we know that this was not Abby. And you might be like, whoa, what are you talking about? Well, Abby legitimately states that he did not eat that power. He did not wake up until you were in danger at the last second. And thus he did nothing about any of that, right? Now he did eat the crownless. However, the way that I see this is that Abby is more than willing to eat the energy of the actual tacit discords, their echoes and such, but the power of the Rover, the Havoc energy that they had or whatever, their Havoc power, is completely different from that. They absorb it before Abby ever wakes up, and I believe that that is actually part of their ability. And remember, Zhuwei said that Abby wasn't there the first time, and yet part of Rover's lore part of Rover's history that we learn in 1.0 is that they were always able to absorb the echoes, which means that even if Abby wasn't there, they could still do that. Their tacit mark was still on their hand. Abby was just put there this time by the goddess. So absorption is definitely a thing that Rover does. We're gonna move on to represented by the tiger. Now, this is another heavy opinion. This is another heavy opinion by me. Okay, but I believe that good old Abby is based off of the tiger.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And when he gets like full and gains his power, he's gonna turn into like a tiger version of Jue, maybe, or something akin to that. That's just my theory, and is definitely just an opinion. But that's all I've got on that one. Again, like I said at the beginning, I'm not really looking to match all of these. I'm looking to look at it like a fucking doctor looks at a patient. As long as you check a majority of these, you're good to go. Next is the color orange. Now we're gonna go back over here. We're gonna zoom in a little bit here. And, I want you to tell me what color Rover's eyes are. Now I know this image isn't too great, but I mean, if you've looked at Rover's eyes ever, the answer is obvious. They're very light orange. They are orange. Those are not yellow. At most, you could call them like a dark gold, but I would 100% call it a light orange. The shader around her eyes over here, also orange. I don't remember if male Rover has that shader. I don't think he does, but he has the same color eyes. So yeah, orange. Orange is there. Jeez, why does it keep going to the paint? Next is a broken line. Okay. So what would a broken line indicate? Well, this is something that I found here, but essentially it indicates unexpected things happening, struggles, losses, such and such. Something that turns a common person into a hero. Sound familiar? That is exactly what happened to Rover the first time, and it's exactly what is happening to Rover now. Unexpected events left and right, a huge loss in memory, interruptions to their goals over and over again, mainly by the Fraxidus, and just struggles that are transforming our character into a hero. All of these things, well, most of them, fit perfectly into the character of Rover. Now, let's go on to the other side here, into Yang, and how these things correlate to Jinhsi. And of course, I will be comparing them to Rover's yin opposites. White, we already know. Light. If you are enlightened, if you are in the light, then you are either a wise person with a lot of knowledge, or you're the spotlight, right? You're in the spotlight. Everybody has their eyes on you. Jinhsi fits both of these things. Jinhsi is the one who gives us the clues and the knowledge that we need to find out about our past. Jinhsi is the main character, basically, of Jinzhou. She's the magistrate. Everybody has their eyes on her. On top of that, Jinhsi is quite fucking wise and intelligent. She is at first introduced in a way playing against Chongli, however you want to say it, in a game of Go. And that was in a trailer, of course. I believe in the actual game, we don't get to see that. We only can hear it through a door. However, Jinhsi does create an elaborate plan to catch Scar. Now, I'm not going to explain the plan. If you've played through 1.0, you know the plan. But it is quite obvious that she is very cunning, very wise, and very informed. We're going to go into South next. Again, South is beginnings and purity. As we know from Sanhua, Jinhsi is very pure of heart. Or at the very least, her resonance is very pure. Now, this does also apply to Rover, but I'm just mainly talking about how this does in fact apply to Jinhsi and that. But there's more. Because like I said, beginnings. Now you might think that beginnings apply more to Rover. However, Rover's current journey is more of a continuation of their last journey than an actual new journey. Jinhsi is actually starting a new fucking journey. Up until now, she has been the magistrate of Jinzhou, but she's pretty much just been kind of like a puppet magistrate for Jue. She's constantly been asking Jue for advice. I mean, they literally say this, that without Jue, she believes that without Jue, they wouldn't have gotten as far as they have. Without Jue's advice, right? But now, with 1.1, she is broken free of that. She has taken over. She has, in a way, ascended. And this is a start of a new beginning for her. She is now the anchor. In every way. She has proven herself. This is what it means for her to have it. Next. We're gonna go into fire and creativity. Now, again, I actually kind of just went over how specifically creativity, because in this instance, fire just means creativity, just like on the inside, water just means transformation. Jinhsi is very creative. The plan that she used to capture Scar was a very creative plan. Hell, each aspect of it was pretty damn creative. I mean, she gives you a bunch of little things, little baubles, that to anybody, for the most part, they would just be like, there's no correlation between these. But she was more than creative enough to be able to see how these would lead you onto a certain path and eventually bring Scar into her clutches. Now, of course, this doesn't just require creativity, it requires wisdom, it requires intelligence, but creativity is definitely a main factor in this. It is without a doubt, you cannot argue that it would require a massive amount of creativity to come up with that plan and everything that it encompassed. Next, we're going to go with active. Just like how I mentioned with Yin and Rover, passive is basically them receiving a lot and being led around on the nose. Jinhsi is the one, every time that we see Jinhsi, every time she's part of the story, she's the one leading. She's the one that gave us those baubles and told us where to go. She's the one that on her own initiative went to Mount Firmament to go and find Jue. She is the one that has been giving us information. She is the one that has been doing everything independently without anyone having to tell her to do anything. Now, that being said, this plays into the beginnings of South. Whereas she just now started doing all this because before, like I said, she was kind of just like almost a puppet to Jue. Jue didn't mean for her to be a puppet, but she relied so heavily on Jue. Now she's become independent, which independent was actually another thing on Yang. I don't know why I put it there. It's probably because it didn't correlate too much, but there was at least one site that said that independency was a part of Yang, and she shows a massive amount of independency throughout the story. Next, we have Sun, Strength, and the god Jihei. Now, personally, here's how I'm going to interpret this. But give me a moment. That's much better. So, the sun is like a shiny beacon of light for everybody. It's like hope, right? As long as the sun shines, you know that the day has started. You know that you have your day ahead of you. It's a brand new fucking day, right? Jinhsi is like that for all of the people in Jinzhou. And they've said this. They've said that she is their leader, she is their hope. They have straight up said how much they look up to her, just like we look up at the sun. And her strength, she was 16 when she was appointed as a magistrate, which, by the way, in China, 16 is basically an adult. So that's why, it's probably why they went with that. I'm pretty sure it's 16. Go ahead and feel free to tell me I'm a fucking idiot and I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was 16. But that's beside the point anyway. And yet she took on one of the heaviest responsibilities that a person can take on. And that is leading an entire fucking city of people. That's strength. Not physical strength. That's inner strength. Something that a lot of people lack. Next, we're going to go into heaven. Jinhsi embodies heaven because she is at the tippy top of Jinzhou society. She literally reigns over everybody, looking down from her big-ass palace on a fucking mountain. She is heaven. She is the heavens to them. She is the sky. On top of that, in her fucking combat kit, she walks on air. Now, knowing what we know about her resident's ability being able to stop time, she probably stops the air particles so that she can walk on them, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, she literally walks on air. She looks down at everybody from above. What better analogy for somebody being in heaven is there than that? Next, we have war. Jinhsi has very, very clearly shown us that she's a very warm person. She's not cold and apathetic like Rover seems to be a majority of the time. She always has a worried or happy expression on her face, and she just feels very warm. And then you've also got that little trailer that we have where you kind of like go on like a little date. Maybe it's not romantic, maybe it is, but it's a date regardless. And you light the little lanterns and all that. It's just a very, you just get very warm vibes. There is no doubt that she's a very warm person and perfectly fits that description. Next, we have Yang. She's Yang. Moving on. Next, we have odd numbers. So with odd numbers, there was only one thing that I found that was correlated between different sources that also perfectly kind of fits in with this. A lot of them just weren't correlated between different sources, or just didn't really make much sense to me. But there was one that I found. Now the entire thing, I don't know if it makes sense in terms of Jinhsi, but I'm gonna go ahead and go over the entirety of the description that I found that correlates through multiple different sources, and that is that odd numbers are said to bring good fortune, that they delight the gods, and that the gods love odd numbers. So let's break this down. The second and third point are basically the same thing. The gods love odds. The first one is bringing good fortune. We have heard, I believe, from certain NPCs that since Jinhsi has taken over, Jinzhou has been a lot better off than it was before she was the magistrate. I don't remember where this was, and I could not find any video of it, so maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe my brain is just scrambled from playing too much goddamn Wuthering Waves and Honkai Impact, or Honkai Star Rail and Honkai Impact, and all these other fucking gacha games. But I swear somebody said that shit. Let me know in the comments below if you recall any of you saying that, but I am pretty damn sure that somebody said that Jinzhou has been far better off since Jinhsi. In fact, it might have been Chixia. That might just be another instance of me purging that from my brain because I just do not like Chixia. But the second point is that the odd numbers are loved by the gods. And Jue themselves says that they are worshipped as a godlike being by humans. And I think it's pretty clear that Jue loves Jinhsi. So much so that at the end of 1.1, and I'll show it here now, after I say this, of course. Gotcha. Jue says that they should just freeze time in Jinzhou instead of doing the other one thing that would actually work and let everyone be safe. But you see, there are two options here. There is freezing Jinzhou and make sure everybody's relatively safe, but there's no guarantee that they'll ever be unfrozen. Or there's putting Jinhsi through a second awakening and allowing her to gain the full totality of the time manipulation bullshit powers, whatever the fuck it's called. I forget. I think it's the time mandate of time or something. The point is that one of these is objectively a better idea, and it was in fact the whole plan from the beginning for Jue, and yet Jue decided to go with freezing Jinzhou instead of trying to have Jinhsi go through a second awakening. And through the dialogue that they have after this, it is made very clear that it is because Jue cares about Jinhsi. Jue loves Jinhsi like a child. Jue raised Jinhsi, so of course this would be a natural occurrence. So yeah, that fits. That actually perfectly fits. It's kind of insane. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to mountains. Every time we interact with Jinhsi, it's on a fucking mountain. Name one time we interact with Jinhsi, it's not on a mountain. We interact with her in the library. Guess what? The library is situated on a fucking mountain. We interact with her in Mount Firmament. Mount Firmament is literally a mountain. She is always seen around on the mountains. She has a connection with mountains. It is obvious. That is done. Next is Rich. Do I gotta explain it? She's leader of a fucking city. She knows everybody in the city. She has deep personal relationships with many people in the city. She has money, she has power, she has family and friends. She is rich in every single conceivable version of that. Next, hard. Yeah. Jinhsi is very unwavering, and you could even call her hard-headed in a way. She went to Mount Firmament alone, knowing what that could mean for her, and just did not care, and struggled through that shit anyway. When she was told to take a break, she was like, nah, fuck that shit, we're gonna keep going. When she was dealing with Scar, she pretty much immediately was like, nah, fuck you, shut up, I'm fucking taking your ass in. Now, of course, after she had him locked down, she did listen to what he had to say, but that was mainly because of the old Jue thing. But she is quite obviously a hard case in a way. She is definitely not soft and malleable, in my opinion, by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and move on. Provides form to all things. This would have to be figuratively taken. And the reason I say it like that is because she is the magistrate of Jinhsi. She would be the one who gives form to the laws of Jinzhou. Now, is that all things? No, this is a loose interpretation of it, but she definitely gives form to a lot of what goes on in Jinzhou. So that's like a half check mark, I guess, if you want to think about it like that. Next, we'll go into penetration. She penetrated my heart with her warmth. We're gonna move on to represented by a dragon. Nah, she doesn't fit that one. Nah, definitely not. No, that one's weird. Why is that there? Next, the color azure. Okay. I want you to take a look at her design really quick. Besides white and black, what is the literally only other fucking color on her goddamn outfit? Azure, which is basically just blue, by the way. Even Jue is a mostly blue dragon. Moving on. The Unbroken Line. Alright. Now, for the Unbroken Line, the only thing I was able to really find out was attention, dignity, and I think assertiveness were the three I was able to find. Yeah, so it was attention, dignity, aspiration, and assertiveness. These are the four that I was able to find across different sources. And I think that they all do, in fact, definitely go along with Jinhsi's character. Attention. She plays Go. If you don't know what Go is, it's basically Chinese chess. But actually, I would say it's even more complicated in a way. Because you have to surround somebody's pieces to take them. Of course, that's a very shallow representation of what the game means. I am not a Go expert. I've never played Go. I've just seen it a few times. That's my understanding of it. Maybe I'm fucking wrong. But you need to be paying attention to that game. Just like you need to pay attention to chess. Dignity, when is she on screen and she does not have an aura of dignity? Please. Do I need to explain this? We're gonna move on to aspiration. She clearly has aspirations for climbing higher. She wants to protect everybody. When we get to Jue finally at the end, and Jue's like, no, we're just gonna freeze Jinzo. She's like, no. I will protect everyone, regardless of what that costs me. That is a pretty lofty fucking aspiration. Anyone will tell you that you can't protect everybody. No matter how powerful you are, you'll never be able to protect anybody. This is a theme that has been played out in so many different TV shows, anime, movies, games. You can't protect everybody, and yet she's aiming to fucking do that. That is a lofty goddamn aspiration. On top of that, assertiveness. This just goes with the job. She's the goddamn master state. She has to be assertive when locking down criminals or passing laws or just meeting with other officials or nobles. Every single one of these things fits her. I can't believe all four of them fit her that I was able to find, because if I recall the Broken Line one, not all of them really fit Rover, but hey, there you go. I mean, at this point, if you are not convinced that Rover and Jinhsi are yin and yang and that they are intrinsically connected in some way, I don't know what to tell you. Okay? That's the video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Tell me in the comments, like I said throughout the video, if there's anything that you disagree with, if you have an opinion that differs from mine on the opinionated ones, if I forgot something or if I misremembered something, go ahead, let me know. Bye-bye.